What's going on, people? How we doing? How we doing? Look, guys, you got to work with me a little bit. Trying out some things, you know me. Just trying to get you guys the best there is. And right now, I can't get you guys to see the board how I quite want you to. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I think we got it. I think we got it. But now we also got a light right there as well. But it's okay, because we want to get this rocking some kind of way. How you guys doing? Check it out. Coach G, right? Your master mindset creator. Listen, guys. Today, what we're going to talk about for the Radical Man Show, we've talked a lot about the man brain. We're going to jump into the porn brain, but even more so, I want you all to, I know, right? I still got the music playing. Give me a sec. All right, so let's break into it again, right? Let's break this down. One of the great things that I appreciate about not just myself, but all the coaches that we have here with the Mindful Habit is that everybody has like a great technique in what they feel is like the number one way of breaking a habit. Like you might hear one thing from me, you might hear something else from Coach Adrian, who just joined, by the way. You might hear something else from Coach Tara, Coach Craig, and we all have a great perspective that we bring to it. And today, I want us to have a second to talk about what I really believe are the most important things you guys need to know as it pertains to you breaking a habit, right? And specifically, we're going to talk about really two things, but in order for us to talk about those real main two things, we got to break down like four things. So listen, if you're serious and you're trying to break a habit, this is the show you need to see. Get it on YouTube. Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it. These are the same things that I still do to this very day. So let's take it out. Let's take it out. Let's check it out. And let's go ahead and look at it real quick. I hope you guys can follow me when we're looking at what's taking place on the screen right now. I don't want the light to get to bother you guys. But the key right now is that we're going to start talking about now, again, remember, now part of this as a mindset creator is that we got to understand the communication we're going to give ourselves. You guys are not here to break an addiction. You are here to know how to change your habits. Period, point blank. You're not here to recover. You guys are here for personal development. All right? So again, I'm not going to sit up here and talk about your addictions. Everybody might come to the table. Not everybody goes to the table and says, you know what? I got an addiction. I see people doing things 1,000 times. They tell me all day long they don't have an addiction. What they will say, I got a habit. I mean, just for a quick second, before we jump into this too much further, how much easier would it be for you to go and get the help you needed in a particular part of your life if all it was about was you knowing how to change a certain habit? Not you having to come to the table and saying, hey world, I got to figure out how to stop this addiction. We got to start talking to ourselves the right way, people. We got to start that. Now, like I said, there's habits. What you first got to understand is exactly what is a habit. So what's a habit? Number one, I'm going to abbreviate this a little bit. That's auto for automatic. Reaction to external. Here's the part I want to make sure you guys understand this. To external. Didn't spell that right. Stimuli. Right? So, what is a habit? This is the definition of what a habit is. It's the automatic reaction to an external stimuli. Not underline automatic and external because I wanted you guys to make sure that you got this part before we start going into this. I need you all to recognize that Whether you're here because you thought you had to deal with an addiction, or you're here because you're like, you know what? Sometimes I don't have the right diet. I don't follow through with my workout routines. I spend money when I'm not supposed to. All those other kind of habits people would like to change. I want you to understand that it's nothing more than an automatic reaction to what? An external stimuli. So here's a good part that I've always appreciated about this definition, especially with me. Like when we're going through the phases of this process, right? When you're here and you're like recovery, it's like, you know what, man, I suck. I do these horrible things. I do them uncontrollably. I have no idea why I do these things. I'm a horrible man because I want to do this and I'm watching this and all these other kind of things, right? Well, here's the reality of it, guys. No, it's an automatic reaction to what? An external stimuli. There's something outside of us to which we are reacting to. That I don't have control? No, it's that it's automatic. Will we be able to get this down? Absolutely. But I want you to understand right now that if you had an automatic reaction to an external stimuli that prompted you to save money, eat well, work out every day, do great at your job, start a new career, spend time with your family, your wife, all these different things, you're not here saying you got a problem. But for those of us who are here because you want to change a certain part in our life, well, then I need us to understand that you're not that kind of broken, screwed up individual. That's not you. It's not what habits do. Now, the second thing you got to know about a habit, and this is where we're going to start having some fun, right? These are the things you got to know before we get to the juicy stuff, right? The second thing we got to know about a habit is the habit cycle. We got to know the habit cycle, right? And one of the things that I got to know right now is that I didn't bring my eraser up here with me, but that's okay. I can go old school with this, no problem. Habit cycle, and I want us to get some more room here, so let's get a little bit of, I know, right? Nobody knew that the back of their hand was like an eraser, right? I'm telling you guys, man, tools, TMI, tools, mindset, insight. What's the habit cycle? Most of us, forget that. Let's just look at the habit cycle, right? A lot of us look at it a couple different ways, but I want you all to be very clear as to what makes this happen and what all drives the different parts here. Here's your habit cycle. It starts off with a trigger. That trigger is going to produce a thought. That thought is now going to produce an action. That's the habit cycle. Now, here's one of the key parts here that people miss with the habit cycle. You see, all of this is being done to satisfy a craving. Period, point blank. Your triggers, thoughts that lead to your actions, right, satisfies your cravings. Now, before we go any further, here's what's going to be really important that I want you guys to understand more as we keep discussing the habit cycle here. Here's what's really important about the habit cycle. Well, especially if you're trying to break a habit, what's crucial for you to know about this habit cycle is this. Number one, you're not going to sit up here and be able to stop the triggers. This is where people kind of mess up at. People say, you know what? The thing that all right, cool. You say it's this external thing, and I get triggered every time I see this, or every time it's this coworker at my job, or every time this situation happens. So we think that if we remove ourselves from the situation, then somehow we no longer are going to experience it. But I'm willing to bet that you, like myself, realize that once you removed yourself from one environment, you found yourself triggered by something else in the next environment. And what it really did was, well, for you, that our thoughts about that was probably like, you know what, I'm still just this horrible guy, always triggered everywhere. And the reality is that you just get more exposed to the triggers we have. Again, these things are biologically hardwired, guys. It's not going anywhere. Now, that leads to our thoughts. Now, here's the deal. We can't fight triggers. Here's the second place people screw this whole deal up. They attack the action. I tell people the exact same thing every single time. If you want to lose weight, it's real easy. Put a chain around the refrigerator and all the cabinets. By day 3, guaranteed you'll lose weight. Day 5, you're going to break into your neighbor's house. It's just that easy. A lot of you guys watching right now, if you're dealing with the porn, compulsive habit of porn and sex, then you know that it's not so much about you getting the filters and the protection set up on your Wi-Fi at home and you not being able to have a smartphone and you not trying to, you were trying to remove yourself from technology to not have all this access and say that I'm going to have my calls monitored now, my account's going to be monitored now. You realize that, you know what? I found the loopholes. I found the way to get past it. That's because you're attacking the action. And here's what's crazy about the action. This is all people see. Like, nobody really recognizes or cares about your triggers. Definitely nobody is seeing your thoughts. And everybody sees your action. And that's the part that people say, look, you got to fix that. Like, the part that I see. Not the parts that we got to deal with. The parts that I see. That's what we get told we got to deal with. Either A, we're going to get a pat on the back because of what they see, or we're going to get judged and condemned because of what they see, because of our actions. How often is it that you hear, it's not about your words, it's about your actions? How often do we have those kind of conversations where it's like, you know what, I'm tired of going back and forth, show me something. If you were in a relationship, that's probably where your spouse is. I tell my guys all the time, if you're in a relationship, you need to stop talking. Your wife doesn't want to hear any more words. She wants to see just straight action right now. I gave my wife lip service for about 7 years. Straight lip service. She just believed so much of the potential that I was spitting out with my lips until finally it came a point in time when it's like, look, what is the action? Your actions don't show me the connections to your words. So do me a favor, stop doing the action and stop the talking. Now, here's what I really want us to focus on. Because here's the deal. If we can't deal with the action, we can't go to the action to stop the habits, then we got to go and we can't deal with the triggers to stop the habits. Well, what's left? What's left are 2 things. And these are the really most important things that we're the only ones who recognize it. It's our thoughts and it's our cravings. Now, the first thing I wanted to talk about real deeply, and I hope we got enough time to discuss the rest of the cravings here, but let's get into our thoughts, because that's what's really important, guys, because that's the only place you will have a chance at breaking your habits. Everybody's going to get triggered. And triggers just work out differently for everybody. What triggers you doesn't trigger me. What triggers me won't trigger you. There are times that, I will just lose it. My wife will tell you, boy, I got some good buddies. They'll tell you, like, George will lose it over this. He's probably, the most carefree, easygoing guy out there. But if it's about this, this, and this, and there is things that people don't even care about too much. Right? It's just what triggers me. Now I'm learning to deal with that better. Right? Like, again, if you guys saw the episode from yesterday, right? It was the what the fuck episode, right? Like, when shit just didn't go right. And that's what triggers me. Like, things not being in a proper structure in an agreed upon way for me. That's a big, 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 big trigger for me. Now, the habits. Back to the habits. But the thoughts that I want us to talk about, you got 4 deadly thoughts. And I want to talk about, I'm going to skip my order. I normally have a certain order when I'm discussing the deadly thoughts, right? But I'm going to skip that a little bit just because I'm recognizing how much more prevalent this one thought pattern is becoming. And that thought is the entitlement. Really, it's not entitlement, it is self-entitlement. So here's the deal with self-entitlement. Self-entitlement is probably the most satisfying thought that we will probably ever have. It is the thoughts that let us know when we are in a deserving place, when we should be rewarded. It is the thoughts that say, you know what, this is what I'm going to get. And as it pertains to dealing with compulsive habits, right? We'll talk about compulsive habits. Here's what I've also realized about the self-entitlement. Self-entitlement is also the kind of thought thinking that says that, you know what, I have enough time to do ... I can handle it if I do ... What do I mean? It could be the guy that says, you know what, I can handle the extra drink. I mean, of course, hey, inebriated, you want to feel more entitled to do a lot more things, right? But still, nonetheless, it's that even the first time you walk into the bar, well, you know that, hey, you know what? I've been in this bar 20 times, and I've never left with less than 4 beers, and I always drive home slurred. I've had 2 DUIs, but tonight, I'm only going to do my 2 or 3 drinks. And I'm not going to have that fourth one. Until you drink the third one, and you're like, man, I can handle it though. Or better yet, hey, maybe you wake up and it's before you got to go to work, and you're like, you know what, I can act out right now. I got time to go ahead and rub one out before I get to work and got to get up. And then what normally ends up happening, right? We're normally what? Wrong. Right? The guy that took the extra drink probably doesn't remember how he got home, may have had an accident, hopefully nobody got hurt, probably got pulled over, a ticket. The guy that says, you know what, I got time to act out or to maybe, hey, do my particular drug of choice before I got to show up to work, and realizes that, you know what, either A, it didn't work out in terms of the time, and it took up more time than I thought it was going to take up. B, it put me in a different place than where I was going to be. You know, when I thought I was going to get to work, I was thinking that, you know what, if I did this, then I'm going to feel like this. You know, self-entitlement, guys, it is a thought that is gaining more and more momentum, especially just within our society. You got to realize that this is something that it's almost like a societal shift in terms of how we're thinking. And let's be honest, especially if we're in the United States. We are a pretty entitled country all in our own, right? I mean, we believe that we should have everything, right? Which isn't really wrong. That's not wrong. I'm entitled to get out here and earn and work for every opportunity that's out here right now. Like, again, self-entitlement is the one that it seesaws with us. Because there's so many ways that this could benefit us. So we're willing to rock with it. Yeah, I am entitled. I'm entitled to the day off. I'm entitled to the extra meal. I'm entitled to go work out. I'm entitled to have an affair. I'm entitled to be married and do all these things. Brothers, if we don't get a chance to expand this conversation to the rest of the thoughts that we have here, right? I mean, we only got 10 minutes left right now. I need you guys to understand that more than anything, self-entitlement is probably one of the biggest thought streams that are operating for you right now. Now, what else do we have besides self-entitlement, right? I'm going to kind of leave self there because it's going to stretch to a couple of them. We got self-deprecating. Self-deprecating. What is deprecating? That's like when you just crapping on yourself. Right? It's when you just talk like shit to yourself. I'm a loser. I suck. I'm a... God. And it can be in a blink of an eye. Here's what's crazy. I did a conference about this, right? I held a conference. Not a conference, I'm sorry. But I spoke to a group of fathers in Maryland, Charles County. And I was discussing the self-deprecating thoughts. And I had one brother who was in that class who said, I think like that at least maybe once a day. Now for him in that moment, he was like, he kind of shrugged it. Like, yeah, I think about I feel like that maybe once a day. Damn, I messed up. I screwed up. I did this. I did this. I suck. I'm this. And when I really explained it to him, I'm like, do you realize that is now, what you're saying to me is that that's literally 365 times you're telling yourself you're crap, you're a loser, you suck. Like, how often do you got to tell yourself something before you start to believe it? Forget how long somebody else has to tell you something before you start to believe it. How long do you got to tell yourself something before you start to believe it? This guy's telling himself literally every single day in some avenue of his life, I suck. Oh man, I'm in the bathroom on the toilet and I didn't get enough toilet paper. Shit, I suck. I'm a loser. Just think about that, man. How often did you run late? Are you in traffic? Did you forget to drop off the mail when your wife, asked you about it? What happened? Anything? Maybe it was that moment when you felt like you got showed up by another male. That used to be a big thing for me. Right? I used to try to put out more of who I was because I was really like crapping on myself anytime I was around somebody who I felt was better than me. Particularly if I was like with my wife. It was just this level of intimidation that I felt with it. I suck. I should be taller. I should weigh more. I should be further in life. I should have more money. Oh my God, I'm horrible. Why is she still with me? All these things. Next one. Let's do a little arrow. Self-doubt. Here's what's crazy. All right, so self-entitlement is the best sounding one. Self-deprecating is the loudest sounding one. Self-doubt is probably... It's like almost, I would want to say it's like a four-way tie with all the thoughts, and especially how entitlement is gaining so much steam. But with self-doubt is so much a damaging thought because it won't even allow you to really get to the place of having a deprecating thought or an entitlement thought. Like self-doubt is like deprecating says, I suck today. I got up, I went to work, and I just had a crappy ass day. Self-doubt says, why should I even get off the couch to go to work? Because I'm going to have a crappy day anyways. That's how hard that is. That's crazy. That's so crucial. And it's not crazy from the standpoint that it's crazy for you to have that thought. It's crazy to know that these kind of thoughts exist. And for a lot of us, especially for anything like me, I dealt with these thoughts and I never knew how they were impacting my actions. I had no idea the connection. I really thought that I lived in a world where my thoughts were operated so independent of my actions. Like there was no real connection between what I thought and what I did. I could be at work doing something, and because I could be great at doing something at work, I could think crappy thoughts all day long about myself. So I didn't know there was a connection that was there. But I want you all to understand this now, men. Like entitlement, self-deprecating, self-doubt. Here's the last one. Got about 5 minutes left here. Before I go into the last one, here's one thing I need you guys to understand about these three thoughts that are happening right now, right? Here's what's really important. And again, I need you all to understand that they're deadly. Like, literally, people die. Someone felt so entitled that he thought he could handle watching while driving. And he's dead. There were, I don't know how many households, how many men. I remember so clearly just listening on the radio or watching the news broadcasting when we had the whole housing market crash, right? That was maybe about less than 10 years ago? Maybe about 2011, 2012 area kind of frame, right? I mean, it was just bad. I mean, the economy went bad, the whole nine. And there were people who was like, I'm such a loser because I let this happen and I signed this loan agreement and they killed themselves. Kill themselves. People kill themselves because they doubt they can even do the right steps. People die. And guys, listen, I just gave you examples of a physical death. I need you all to know that the other deaths that happen are going to be the deaths that happen with your relationships. The death that will happen with your connection to your body and with your business and your finances. The death that will happen with what legacy you're going to have an opportunity to leave. Again, we got to talk as men. We leave the legacies. Takes nothing away from what a woman can do and what a woman will leave. But as men, we leave legacies. We leave the footsteps that others want to follow in. Our kids are supposed to look up and say, man, my dad fucking kicked ass. And it takes nothing away from mom kicking ass. Believe me, my mom kicks fucking ass. I mean, this lady in her 60s does more, literally, like she inspires me with what she does. She has an indomitable spirit about her work ethic. Like, my dad. There's a ton of things I can say about my dad in a positive way, but in terms of the overall legacy, we don't get a chance to always just focus on the end part. You see, my dad was an alcoholic. He was addicted to drugs. He, was a womanizer. I mean, the whole nine. And see, for me growing up, as soon as George steps out the line, as soon as George uses drugs, as soon as George does it, that's about me now. It's not all of a sudden being connected to like, oh wow, George, how come you're not doing like your mom is doing? It's like, oh George, you're doing the same thing your dad did. I've never not one time had anybody say to me like, oh wow, that's awesome, just like your mom. I just had it. Men, we got to understand our roles. We leave the legacies. So now listen. These thoughts, the most important part about all of these, right here, man. Self. You give yourself these thoughts. You control them. I need you all to understand that. You control the thoughts. You control that. Even when they come fast as lightning, there's still going to be a space, and we're going to get into at a later date, where you're going to know how to change these thoughts. Here's the last thought that I want you guys to get, brothers. Most of us are going to know this is like the sex thoughts. Oh, look at her ass, look at her tits, look at her breasts, look at her waist, look at where she walks, her hair, her smell. What this really is about, though, and again, I'm abbreviating some, PO. Personal objectification. That's what this really is. Personal objectification. So what does that mean? Yeah, we can look at the chick and say, oh my gosh, look at that. I mean, look, I'll tell you guys right now, I swear for Lord, there's probably no better blessing to men that God gave than a beautiful woman in a sundress or yoga pants. It's just what it is, right? Now, that's going to be the part of the sex part that's talking. We have the tools, and we're going to discuss those tools for you guys. Don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging like Coach G even said, look at the yoga pants and the sundress. And it's like, no, Coach G is mindful enough to be aware enough to say, you know what? Yo, summertime's coming, and I'm going to have an issue around a bunch of yoga pants and in sundresses. So I need to prepare myself. We're going to talk about that, though. The other areas that I want you guys to be aware of, though, with personal objectification is when you begin to look at another person, another idea, another property, and begin to almost objectify it for you. What do I mean by that? I'll give you a personal example. I got a good friend, right? Childhood friend, grew up together. Kind of went down separate roads. There was a point in time we literally lived a block away. I was in college, he wasn't in college, but we lived a block away from each other. It was crazy. Now, I was in a basement apartment, still going to school, I'm working, the whole nine. I had a bunch of complaints I was dealing with, and just with my relationship at the time, all stuff still in my head. And here I go to Marcus' place, who's not in college, not really working. This guy has a whole house, like, boom, 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 like, has a whole house, has a backyard, girls walking around the house all types of way. You know, like doesn't even care. He can get all kissed up by his girl, leave the house, go hang out and have sex with a girl around the corner. And I'm looking at all of this like, why don't I got that? Why am I busting my ass for this little piece of stuff that I had? If I had this house, oh man, it would be so awesome, man. Because I deserve this house. And if I had this house, and if my girl did what she did, and if I had, his freedom. Now, forget about the fact that there's roaches all through the house and foundations all cracked up and, clothes all over the place and the whole nine. Who cares? Forget about the fact that, the kitchen looks horrible. Just dirty. Like they got to eat out every night. It was horrible. I never had to deal with these things. Forget about the fact that, this guy's dealt with a couple different, STDs or whatever, and he's going around to different chicks and everything like that, and I haven't had to deal with that. You see, I wasn't seeing the big picture about that, and that's what objectifying and personal objectifying does. I remember when me and my wife was like in the low of the low moments, and I'm trying to make it right, and we go to a restaurant, and we're in this restaurant, and we're not connecting at all. It's our favorite restaurant, but there's no connection whatsoever between me and her. And in walks this couple. Me and my wife see him at the same time. This couple is like the worst expression of love. It's like the disgusting love. Like, Lady and the Tramp, let me eat spaghetti with you kind of love, and wrap the arms, and somehow we still drink wine and champagne. I've never figured out how to do that. But still, I'm looking at this couple, and I'm like, and I'm looking at the woman, but I'm not looking at her about sex. I'm looking at her like, man, why can't my wife do what she did so that, why can't my wife be on me like she's on her, like she's on him? My wife, unbeknown to me, was thinking the exact same thing, except in reverse. She was like, I wonder what he did to have her act like that, because you ain't doing it. Now here's the deal. This was all of your thoughts. It really only lasts like this long. I want you to even put a time on, maybe give it a 2-minute piece. And the reason why I say that is because we can see that image, experience the doubt, the deprecating thought, and the entitlement. But again, it's all self. We control it. But it only takes this long for that thought to really start manifesting if we don't pay attention to it. Again, this couple that we saw, we don't know if they were staged. We don't know if they was fighting before they left. We don't know if they're going to fight when they get home. They could have came in high and just was all love. Have no idea. Guys, these are the thoughts. 4 deadly thoughts. Self-entitlement, self-deprecating, self-doubt, sex, and personal objectification. Know the thoughts. It's not about knowing what everybody sees in terms of the actions. And it's not about you worrying about the things you can't control right now, like the triggers. Know your thoughts. We're going to wrap this up, guys. We're going to jump back in this later. We're going to talk about some tools next time. Meet you guys tomorrow. We're going to break down some of these tools to help us handle some of these thoughts. And by the end of the week, we're going to get a chance to make sure that we jump into the second area that I want to make sure is important about the habit cycle for you guys. After thoughts, guys, we got to jump nose first, head first, right into our cravings. That's the show for today, guys. Episode 6 wrapped up. Thank you guys for joining us today. Remember, like it, subscribe to it, follow us. Give me a call if you guys got any questions whatsoever. 443-600-9169. Shoot me an email, george@themindfulhabit.com. Remember, kick ass. Peace.